It's week 1 of the NFL season, and dynasty managers are already sweating. Some players look like they're set up to dominate, but others, there are big red flags that you just cannot ignore. Today, I'm running through 5 players on my Dynasty Panic Meter, and trust me, if you've got these guys on your roster, it might be time to start worrying.
Hey.
First guy that I'm going to be talking about here is Chris Olave for the New Orleans Saints. I'm cool with the player. I think his skill set's fine, but I absolutely hate this offensive situation for him. Now, he's been okay in terms of statistics. Not a great fantasy wide receiver, though, just because of the quarterback situation. He is not QB proof, and that's going to continue to be the case this year as well. Throughout his career, he's had guys like Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, Derek Carr, who put Olave out of commission multiple times due to hospital passes. And now you get Tyler Shuck in the mix / Spencer Rattler. I think Shuck will start the majority of the year unless he gets hurt. But you see this in his statistics for Chris Olave. He's had bad quarterback play, and he's suffered because of it. Fantasy points per route run, 36th in 2024. You have fantasy points per target. He was 61st with 1.74 in 2024. That's with his statistics while he was in game. This isn't hurting him because he was out of commission, right? These stats are just when he played. And he wasn't very consistent. Throughout his career, he hasn't been very consistent. And that's not completely on him, I know. It is because of the bad supporting cast around him, but that's not changing, and I don't expect him to be a fantasy relevant wide receiver. I think at best, he is a low-end wide receiver 2 finish, literally a wide receiver 24 at his absolute peak. I think he's more of a wide receiver 3, and you see his dynasty value right now, it is through the roof compared to what it should be. I think his value is completely overblown right now. But in terms of a panic meter, guys, I think he's right in the orange area. I'm not saying sell him completely, but if you plan on starting him a majority of your year, I think you're probably in a rebuild already. He's a little bit older. He's not super old, but I think he should be one of the guys that you need to sell. I've seen him go for a first-round pick very recently, so I think Chris Olave, try to get a first-round pick for him, sell him if you can. If you're a middling team and you're not really going to get much value out of him, I guess you can keep him, but for the most part, I think he's a big-time sell, and you need to get him off your rosters because I think he's going to underwhelm a lot of people this year, just due to the supporting cast. All right, guys, next up on my list, it's yet another former first-round pick wide receiver, and it's Brandon Ayuk this time for the San Francisco 49ers. He looked to be a solid wide receiver 2, maybe even better than that at his peak in 2023, 2022, that range. He was a really solid wide receiver, and then he wanted to be paid. He sat out training camp in 2024, and he came back, and he looked like a shell of himself. He looked really rusty. He didn't look good whatsoever. And then he tears his ACL. Now, it looks like he's not going to be fully ready to come back until about week 6, week 7 or so, which that already means he's not going to provide you a lot of value this year in fantasy, this year in Dynasty either. And he's already 27 years old, right? So this is, I think, an ideal time to sell Brandon Ayuk, right? You can excuse the 2024 season as he was rusty, then he got hurt, but look at what he's done when he's healthy, right? You give those angles to sell this guy because I think he is a shell of himself. We'll look at the same metrics that we looked at for Chris Olave. Fantasy points per route run, 0.30, which was 79th in the NFL in 2024. Fantasy points per target was even worse, 1.33, which was 101st in 2024. That was absolutely horrendous stuff. And even stuff where he was really solid at during his 2023-2022 campaign. Yards per route run, 1.81, which was 49th in the NFL. And it's no excuse. I mean, the offense is wide receiver friendly to him specifically, but they've brought in new guys into this offense. Ricky Pearsall, he's coming in as a former first-round pick back in 2024. If he's fully healthy, what does that look like, right? Jawan Jennings, he's looking solid as well. And you look at his value still, he's still got a little bit of value. I'm seeing people, get solid returns for Brandon Ayuk right now, and I think he's not going to be worth much of anything once he comes back from injury and he's just not the same player anymore. I think this is going to completely derail his career, unfortunately, because I really liked what I saw back in 2022, 2023 with Brandon Ayuk, but I think the mixture of him getting paid, he doesn't really have that dog in him because he's getting paid so much now. It's, he doesn't have to play as hard. You see that with athletes all the time. And now, he's got a big time ACL injury that he's coming back from. A lot of wide receivers have a lot of trouble coming back from that injury. So I think right now with Brandon Ayuk, I think it's time to get rid of him. You see on the panic meter, he's all the way in the red. I think you get rid of him for whatever value that you can get right now and just ride off into the sunset happy, because I don't think Brandon Ayuk will be fantasy relevant until he retires. All right, a controversial name that's going to be on this list, it's Puka Nacua for the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I cannot deny, Puka Nacua is a very talented wide receiver. He is a target hog. He's always catching pretty much every target that comes his way. Matthew Stafford pretty much identifies him and only him in this offense. He just throws the ball to him over and over and over. And Puka Nacua showed that in his rookie season. He caught a ton of receptions, got a ton of yards, broke records. Then last year, when he played, when he was healthy, he was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. Now, guys, he missed a good portion of last year because he had some injuries, some soft tissue injuries. And guys, there's a reason why he fell to day 3 in the NFL draft. It's not because he wasn't super talented. At BYU, he was super talented, but he couldn't stay on the field because of injury concerns. And I don't think that stops. I feel the same sort of way about Ladd McConkey in a way, right? These guys that have a ton of durability issues in college come to the NFL, have a good season, and then everybody's hyped up for him, and then you realize this guy has durability concerns. Puka Nacua definitely has these durability concerns, but I cannot deny when he's on the field, he's a very much versatile piece for your team that will be able to score you tons of fantasy points. But there's other red flags outside of the durability, right? Devontae Adams comes in. How much is that going to take away from Puka Nacua, right? We don't know, because Devontae Adams, he really wants targets and he will be vocal about that. Now, another thing, Matthew Stafford, he should play this year. I know the back injuries are a little, weird with what's being reported right now, but I think he does play week 1. I think he plays the entire season, barring injury. But outside of that, after this season, I think he retires this year, and then Puka Nacua is left with no quarterback. Do they draft a guy in the first round? Who knows? I do like the 2026 quarterback class, but you're going to have a rookie quarterback throwing to him. You don't know what the chemistry is going to look like. Outside of all that, and he's talking about retiring early. I know people just kind of swept that under the rug, but Puka Nacua, if he's staying by retiring at 30, he's only got like 5 years left. And with that being said, in 2 years from now, people are going to be like, well, he's retiring in 3 years, and they're going to look at him like Derrick Henry right now. So Puka Nacua, you can get a ton of value for right now. I don't have to tell you guys how good Puka Nacua is. He's phenomenal when he plays, but the quarterback situation, definitely rocky right now after this season. The retiring thing, and his durability concerns. Those are all 3 major red flags, and his value has only gone up since his rookie season, which is very weird because his rookie season was phenomenal. He had a better finish than he did last year, yet his value keeps going up. So I think this is the perfect time to cash out on Puka Nacua. Try to, flip him for Drake London plus something like that, because I think Drake London's way more consistent and less injury prone than Puka Nacua. So definitely ship Puka Nacua off. You can look on the panic meter. He's in the yellow. He's going to produce for you at least this season, but after this, I don't know what his production looks like. So if you're trying to get good value for Puka, I think his value is at an all-time high right now. Yet another slightly controversial name on this list is Devon Achane for the Miami Dolphins. Now, don't get me wrong, I think he's a phenomenal pass-catching running back. His hands are super reliable, and when you get him in space, he creates yards. I mean, you can see that in some of his efficiency metrics, right? 8th in the NFL in yards created, 7th in yards created per touch. These are solid numbers for him just because he's super explosive. He can break off big plays from anywhere if you give him space. Now, where he lacked last year, in 2023, he was very efficient, had crazy high yards per carry numbers, right? And then in 2024, it dipped significantly. Why is that? Because he was the number one option in that offense. He was the main volume guy. And I don't think he's a volume-based runner. I think he's a change of pace guy and a third down back. That's what I view him as. Yet he was very successful in fantasy last year because he caught so many balls. He got a ton of carries still, even though his yards per carry wasn't that great. You see the true yards per carry, he was 34th in the NFL last year. Not good whatsoever. I will say the Miami Dolphins offensive line was very underwhelming, and he kind of suffered for that. Now, there's a couple of other red flags as well. He has a soft tissue injury on the lower side of his body. I want to say it's probably a hamstring issue, something like that if I had to guess. But he's also 188 pounds. I don't think he can hold up long-term in the NFL. I know running backs don't really hold up long-term anyways, but him specifically, he's only 188 pounds, and he's not going to be able to hold up with this amount of carries every single year. So I think they dip his carries a significant amount this year, and they give it to Ollie Gordon, who's looked phenomenal throughout the preseason. You know, he looked amazing in 2023 at Oklahoma State. He was one of the best running backs in the entire country. Then the team really fell apart in 2024. Didn't really have much to give Ollie last year, unfortunately, hence why he was a 5th-round pick. Now, Ollie, I think he's immediately going to get the short yardage work and the goal line work, which takes away from Achane even more. He's not the biggest touchdown merchant, right? So I think Achane's not going to finish as an RB1 this year. I think his value tanks a decent amount because right now I think he's a top 5 back on Keep Trade Cut. So I think you can get a haul for him right now, and I think now is the perfect time to sell this guy. Now, I want to say one more thing. You look at the panic meter, it's in the yellow because I do think he's going to produce as an RB2 fairly consistently throughout his career as long as he stays in the system, just because he's that good of a receiving back. Think like a souped up, an emphasis on souped up, a souped up Justice Hill. I think that's the kind of runner that Achane's going to be long term, but right now his value is way overblown for me. I think you need to ship him off while you can. You can see some of the things that you can get for him right now. I think this is the perfect time to ship him off. Last guy that I want to talk about, and I think this guy is the clearest panic sell right now, it's Brian Robinson Jr. for now the San Francisco 49ers. So outside of the jokes of literally every single running back for the 49ers gets hurt immediately when you go over there, I don't know what it is about their strength and conditioning program, whatever it is, all the running backs just get hurt. Pretty much the whole team gets hurt. But regardless about that, Brian Robinson Jr., he had a decent role in Washington. You know, he was pretty much their RB1 over the past few years, and he was very, very underwhelming. You know, he had some big games here and there. He's not a big receiving game guy either, outside of a couple of games where he had like 60 yards or whatever, you know, receiving. But outside of that, I mean, he's a very limited runner. He's a big, powerful runner. He's a short yardage guy, right? He's a goal line back. But Christian McCaffrey's already going to be doing all of that work anyways because he's just head and shoulders better than Brian Robinson. And at his current value, I saw his value go up a little bit after the trade, which is kind of crazy to me because I think he's basically a high-end handcuff if Christian McCaffrey goes down. And I don't even know if he's that good. And you see him in the first 3 years of his career thus far, no 800-yard seasons. I know running backs, this Kyle Shanahan system is very running back friendly, but I just don't think he's that good. I mean, like I said, he's a big physical runner, but that's pretty much it. I mean, he's Dollar General version Derrick Henry, without the speed, without the stiff arms, things like that. I just don't see a lot of value in his skill set. And you see that. In yards created, he was 30th in the NFL. Yards created per touch, 37th in the NFL. True yards per carry was 36th in the NFL. In terms of efficiency metrics, he is not efficient whatsoever. Now, before the injury last year, he looked decent, and then when he came back from injury, he looked like a completely different player. Now, we kind of saw the same thing with Joe Mixon, but with him, I just don't see any value in keeping him on your roster outside of him being a handcuff. And with his current value right now, you can get a second-round pick for him as a handcuff. I think that's phenomenal value, and you need to get rid of him while you can, because he's not going to be a big-time asset for you in terms of giving you fantasy points until Christian McCaffrey goes down. If you believe Christian McCaffrey is going to get injured once again, then pick Brian Robinson up, but not at his current value. Wait for Christian McCaffrey to get all the carries in this offense. Wait for Brian Robinson's value to go down, and then trade for him. That's what you need to be doing. You look at the panic meter, guys, it's all the way in the red. His value is way too overblown right now. Get rid of him. You can pick him up on waivers. I don't know. But he's not a guy that you want to keep on your roster unless you think Christian McCaffrey is going to go down. If you're betting on injuries to basically account for this guy's value, that's not the way to go. Ship him off while you can. Get that second-round pick. And that's my 5 players to panic about before week 1. These players you should seriously be panicking about heading into the season, but I want to know what you think. Who are you most worried about? Drop your takes down in the comments, and if you want to talk dynasty trades, stashes, and panic moves in real time, make sure you join the Bobby's Big Board Discord. The link is in the description as always. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a breakdown. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Hey.